Hello and welcome to Nationwide on the network service of the NTA. I am Kendi Olale. Thanks for joining us. As President promised sustained partnership with critical stakeholders in the creation of a better future for the country, participants at the two-day presidential policy retreat say they're ready to implement the recommendation of the retreat as this is aimed at lifting the people out of poverty. State House correspondent Jide Onifadi reports.
As remarked by the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Adams Oshiomhole, every Nigerian could tell what the problem is with the country, but finding solutions to these problems poses another challenge. And after spending quality time deliberating on these problems and setting agenda for a better Nigeria, the president hosts participants, and I asked some of the governors what they are taking away from this retreat.
What's particularly unique about this is that it's also brought together all levels of government, particularly state governors, private sector, and the federal government to review issues on health, on education, human capital development, on agriculture, on solid minerals, on ease of doing business, on efficiency of government and public sector reform. We also had the opportunity to listen to how this has been done in other countries.
One of the most important things I took in from here is tackling insecurity.
It has opened a lot of opportunities for us, especially in terms of security, in terms of the business, investment, education, among others. We have learned a lot.
But beyond having all these laudable ideas and trying to implement them, you must ensure that you are also able to measure the performances. And there came with that the suggestion of delivery units. You know, there's what we call global or government delivery units. But today what I took away is that not only do you need to have a government delivery unit, you need to have an agricultural delivery unit, an infrastructure delivery unit, a healthcare delivery unit, headed by someone who is very competent.
There is no gain without pain, are saying, expressing the need for people to collaborate with the government and to endure, as they are bound to benefit from the various programs the government has outlined to usher in a much better time. At the State House, Jide Onifade, NT News.
The presidency has been briefed by the responsible government agencies about the disturbing video of the humanitarian aid worker held captive. A statement by the Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Galbashir, says the presidency has been given assurance that contact is being maintained with the captor. A similar engagement, it says, is also being made on Leah Shaibu, a religious leader, and all others. What this latest incident has done, it says, is to bring urgency to the effort that Secret Service is making, just as government is making contact in the hope that the captors will see reason to not visit hardship or even the innocent individuals. Well, we'll now join our outside broadcast crew at the floor of the Senate for the continuation of the ministerial screening.
When we enter, do that to her at all. Yes, sir.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Imagine a station where you access information. Think of a station that creates awareness for national development. Imagine a station that prepares you for a bright and greater future. A station for all ages. Documentaries, classroom and television, events coverage, children's programs and variety shows. Always stay tuned to NTA Knowledge on the StarTimes platform, channel 359. For partnership, sponsorship and advert placements, contact us on NTA Knowledge. NTA Knowledge, learning to broaden horizon.
Welcome to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria.
Technology, the mother of all inventions, has influenced various aspects of human existence that in numerous difficulties has been brought to the barest level. Travel as a form of communication has been made simple through the invention of the motor car, which can travel several miles in a very short time. Due to various irregularities on the roads like potholes, careless driving, overspeeding, and a host of others, the chances of motor cars getting involved in accidents cannot be overlooked. As such, devices like the seatbelts and airbags have been made.
Basically, airbags are meant to serve as security for lives and property in our vehicles.
The motor car airbags are safety devices or features designed to protect passengers and drivers in a head-on collision. The question begging for an answer, therefore, is how many car buyers take time to check the cars for airbags when they are purchasing one?
And like we car dealers now, if you are going to buy a car, we're buying the one that has a airbag, because people are going through what is raining.
About an airbag in a car, it's supposed to be a supplementary restraint system. It's supposed to be something that helps to assist during the time of an accident, but it only works well once you have a seatbelt across your chest, or else otherwise it can be a dangerous thing in a car.
Airbags act as a cushion for passengers, thus preventing them from hitting the steering column and dashboard, which may lead to head, shoulder, or even chest injuries. The importance of safety devices in a motor car cannot be overemphasized.
Admit the nominees, House of Representatives members, non-serving senators, non-serving House of Representatives members, and other government officials into the Senate chamber. I so move.
Well, thank you for joining us again on the live broadcast of the screening of ministerial nominee by the Senate. Well, the Senate went on break after its first session, morning session, and came back this evening to commence with the second session. Well, in the morning session, the Senate screened 2 nominees, and then now they are back to the chamber to continue with the screening process. Well, I have with me here Senator Senator Abakar Kiare from Borno North, who wants to tell us how the mood has been and what has been his experience with this screening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So how did you see the screening? How would you describe the mood?
Well, so far, so good. We have seen nominees come in and perform incredibly well. And I'm also impressed by the way we have a bipartisan kind of support in terms of both parties, two majority parties, supporting the nominees. And also, so far we haven't confirmed them, but what we have done so far is to screen them. And the screening exercise has been very seamless and it's going on very, very smoothly.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Right. Well, now we will now go straight to the red chamber to follow the continuation of the screening exercise.
Sir? Which officer? Mijigoro.
Well, the first nominee for this second session is Osage Ehanire. Osage Ehanire is from Edo State, a medical doctor by profession. He studied medicine at the College of Medicine, Ludwig University of Munich in Germany. He worked at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. He was appointed Minister of State for Health in 2015. He's now at the podium for the screening.
Standing before us on the podium is the nominee from Edo State, the former Minister of State Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire. On behalf of my colleagues, I want to welcome you to the Senate chamber. We are already in receipt of copies of your CV. You may highlight anything that you think needs to be noted by the Senate and anything that you might have not included in the CV but is of significance in this exercise. Once again, you are welcome. You can address the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President, Deputy President of the Senate, principal officers of the House, distinguished senators. May I recognize the distinguished senators from my state, Edo State, Senator Matthew Oruide, Senator Clifford Odia, and Senator Francis Alimekena. And with your permission, Mr. President, may I also recognize the senators from my mother's state, Delta State. Thank you. Distinguished senators, it is my great pleasure and privilege to be here, standing before you. I stood here in 2015 for the same procedure that culminated in my being appointed as Minister of State for Health. I'm grateful and I do appreciate His Excellency, the President of the Republic, for the recognition and the opportunity given to me to be standing here again today. The CV that I have sent around is very detailed, but I will take the opportunity to share a few things with you that are of interest. Very briefly, first, I attended the Government College Ibadan. I believe a nominee who was here 2 days ago also extolled the values of that college that prided itself in discipline. That college will be 90 years old this year. I was there for the West African School Certificate and a higher school certificate. I opted to accept a foreign scholarship rather than enter the universities to which I was admitted here, and found myself in Germany at the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, which is 547 years old this year. And I graduated from there and went on to do my internship and to be registered as a medical practitioner in the state of Bavaria. I got a license to continue with my postgraduate education, and I went on to spend a total of 9 years in the hospital systems in that country and came out with a diploma in anesthetics, a board certification at the Medical Board of North Rhine in general surgery, and a board certification in the subspecialty of orthopedic and trauma surgery. Distinguished senators, the value of this path of education is not just that I went in there and collected, got the knowledge and got the skills of surgery. It is in the comparative knowledge and experience of being immersed in the health system of another country, a typical developed country, and weighing it against the health system of my country here, which I also experience. The comparative value has been extremely instructive for me. When I left here, I was 19 years old. When I came back, I was 35 and I had a family. I started my career in Nigeria at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, and from there I went on to take an employment with Shell Petroleum Development Company in Warri, where I was born, as a divisional surgeon in the West. From there, I also branched out into private practice. And in all of this, I also was able to see the health system of Nigeria from the private practitioner's point of view, from the point of view of a company doctor, and from the point of view of a doctor in a public hospital. These experiences have been very valuable. I entered into politics because of my interest in the vision and the passion of President Buhari. And I am honored and pleased to have been asked to join his cabinet. I believe I owe it a duty to also brief you on the stewardship of the last 3 years. One of the main pillars of the administration of President Buhari is investment in human capital development. And the linchpin of human capital development is investment in the healthcare. And critical in investment in the healthcare is investment in the primary healthcare sector. The primary healthcare is what has been the major activity of the Ministry of Health in the last 3.5 years. When this regime came, only 20% of the primary healthcare centers were functional. Today, there are more than 50, and it is all due to the partnership with state governments, of which I will say that some states did better than others, and also development partners who all believe in the Alma Ata Declaration that primary health care is the key to universal health coverage. A lot of achievements have been made in that sector, and I would also add that the immunization coverage has increased reasonably. The vaccine procurement plan for the next several years is secured. The polio eradication has gone on very well. We had a setback a couple of years ago, but we're on the road to being certified now. And the primary health care sector has been the main focus for a lot of other interventions, together with the National Center for Disease Control. I would like to appreciate the contribution of this august House in the release of 1% consolidated revenue fund to drive the primary healthcare sector for the basic healthcare provision fund, which is already long into realization. About 23 states have been engaged. Several have been given some of their tranches. Some have had their facilities inspected. There's been some training going on. The National Steering Committee and the Technical Working Group have all been constituted. I also want to appreciate this House for the law setting up the National Center for Disease Control, which has taken up its duties of providing health security for the country. They are the custodians of our public health, and they are doing a very good job. During this period also, the National Agency for Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has done a lot of work in protecting us from fake drugs. You may have read in papers today that they destroyed about over 1 billion naira worth of tramadol, and also protecting our borders from importation of substandard and fake medicines. There has been relative industrial peace in the health sector, and the approval of minimum wage has also helped to cool things down. It is my prayer that the harmony in the health sector remains. The tertiary healthcare institutions are in a state of reformation. There was a plan being worked out to improve the reputation and improve and restore the confidence of Nigerians in this health sector, so that not so many people will go abroad for treatment, which cost this country an estimated 1 billion in capital flight. We would like to encourage governors and partners to scale up their intervention in the secondary healthcare sector, which is between the primary and the secondary and the tertiary healthcare, because secondary is supposed to take referrals from the primary sector, and it is this area particularly where the private sector we hope they can be introduced and included. Health financing is still a work in the making. The National Health Insurance Scheme has received a new executive secretary, and we are waiting for that progress on a bill that has already been submitted, or rather the law that has already been passed and submitted for the consent. We are also working on models to increase health funding by encouraging states to set up community health insurance schemes so that the pool of money available for health care is increased. Research has been going on very well in our research institutions. We have discovered through one of our research institutions a drug that takes care of sickle cell anemia, which has been licensed to a company for production all during the last years. And also, one commercial company has been given permit to look into production of vaccines, local vaccines. The challenges facing the health sector of particular great importance is a weakness in the area of referrals. A group has been set up, a technical group has been set up to look into working on creating a national emergency and ambulance system. You all know that in developed countries of the world, if you're not well or there's an accident, you call a number.
Doctor, I think you can round up this so that you can entertain questions.
Very good.
You can round up your presentation.
I will leave the message, the rest of it to questions, and await your further directive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Ibrahim Olorogbe.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, my name is Ibrahim Yahaya Olorogbe. I represent the people of Kwara Central and Kwara State. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Nominee, a colleague, I congratulate you for being renominated by Mr. President. It's my assumption that Mr. President found you worthy and of good performance. That's why he's returning you. I also note with commendation your wealth of experience and your distance as a medical practitioner for about 46 years long span, providing services to humanity. I'm not unaware that Mr. President may post you to or assign you to any other assignment or ministry. But my two questions will be based on your last sojourn, the last 3.5 years in the health sector, and your long years of medical practice and knowledge. Now, the first question, you will agree with me that the performance of any health system of any country is measured through key performance indicators. For Nigeria, and for any country for that matter, the best way to be able to look at any, that is widely accepted for performance indicators is that is conducted by the country. And for us, it will be the National Demographic and Health Survey. The last one was in 2018. And I'm sure you may be familiar with some of these indicators. Okay, you are not hearing me. Sorry. I said the performance of any health system is measured through some performance indicators of the key elements of the health system. And I said the best and most accepted one are those measurements that are conducted nationally, not any report by any international organization. And I said for Nigeria, our source of measuring our performance in the health sector is the National Demographic and Health Survey, the last one of which was published in 2018. Some of these indicators include, sorry, my listening is on. So some of the indicators include, I'll ask my questions. I just laid the ground, Mr. President, that we have, there's no time, sorry. So my question is that if you look at these indicators, we are compared 2013 to 2018, we either stagnate or we are getting worse. 1 in 5 Nigerian children are never immunized. Immunization that you mentioned, we have only 31% full immunization, and we have only about 21% of appropriate immunization. We still have about 122 children dying before their age of 5. So my question is, what will you do differently in terms of the 6 building block of health system to be able to make Nigerian health system to perform better. That's number one. Number two, in your earlier presentation, you spoke about the tertiary health institutions and what you are doing in tertiary, primary, and secondary. And you are urging for a better linkage. The Nigeria health system can be looked at as an inverted comma, where you have majority of resources given to the base that is treating less. 80% of the problems in primary health care, but 80% of resources is in tertiary care. So what will you do? We cannot change that. So my question is, what will you do differently to make where we give the resources to serve where the problem is, because the body is in primary health care? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar.
The President of the Senate, sitting in chair, my distinguished colleagues, I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar, representing the decent people of Kwara North. Mr. Nominee, congratulations for your renomination, and thank you for your service to our country. And you've stated most of your achievements. However, I'm interested in one layer of healthcare delivery this afternoon, which is primary healthcare. As we are told by the WHO that almost 90% of the healthcare need of citizens can be provided by primary healthcare. And I agree. In Nigeria, we have almost 30,000 primary healthcare centers scattered all over this country. And only about 20% are functional. Others are not functional for reasons you are aware of: lack of infrastructure, human resource for health, drugs and consumables, name it. And poor funding generally, even though health is, on the concurrent legislative list. Now my question is, what is your next level vision and action plan to be able to turn this around, even what we are budgeting for health is very, very far away from what is expected. And that is not going to change soon. So you are going to continue to have less and less, but we have to find a way of doing more and more with less. So what creativity are you going to bring when Mr. President, assigns you to the health ministry? Thank you.
Senator Adiola Solomon Olamileko.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleague, Adiola Solomon Olamileko, representing Lagos West Senatorial District. Mr. President, I will start with this common slang that health is wealth. Today we have before us the ministerial nominee and a former Minister of Health of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, I will go straight to my question. Number one, on the administration of the National Health Insurance Scheme, what is your take as it currently were on that particular scheme? Do you think that the National Health Insurance Scheme that we currently have is properly run, that would be useful to every Nigerian? Two, how will you raise the tertiary health institution across this country, despite the concerted efforts by the government of the day to do everything humanly possible to make it functional at the optimal level? And lastly, on the issue of the primary health care. Okay, I will stop at that, Mr. President. Sorry.
Distinguished colleagues, just by way of reminder, we have a maximum of 2 questions per person. The last on this batch will be Senator Bio Barakuma Degi.
Mr. President of the Senate,
distinguished colleagues, I remain Bio Barakuma Degi Eremian. I represent the people of Bayelsa East, including the people of Oloibiri, where the first oil well, commercial oil well, was found. Well done. Yes, sir. Mr. President, thank you for the privilege. Mr. Nominee, I looked through your CV and it is very impressive. In addition to the fact that you have served as Honorable Minister of State Health, I've also listened to your presentation and you touched on the focus of the President on primary healthcare delivery. Mr. Nominee, you are aware, as much as most of us do, that the menace of fake drugs in this country is alarming. I'm happy that in your presentation of stewardship, you talked about the destruction of 1 billion tramadol by NAFDAC. Mr. Nominee, from Karuan and Moda in Sokoto, the very last part, in Sokoto, the northern end, to Brass, in Bayelsa State into the Atlantic Ocean, you have chemists, you have pharmacy scattered all over the corners, everywhere you go in this country. And the truth remains, if you have to borrow the words of Mr. President, that if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. That is applicable to fake drugs. If we don't kill fake drugs will kill the less privileged in the society. And of course, there are more in population. Based on your status as the immediate past Honorable Minister of State for Health, I will not be surprised if, Mr. President, if by the grace of God you are confirmed and Mr. President appoints you back into that sector, what strategic policy reforms would you introduce to strengthen NAFDAC to fight the menace of fake drugs? Thank you, Mr. President.
You can respond to the questions, please.
Oh, okay. Respond? Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Senate President. I would like to start with the last question of the distinguished senator from Bayelsa State. The question of fake drugs is truly, as you say, a horrible menace in the country, and it even made an appearance on the foreign news network some time ago. The check of fake drugs is a combined effort. NAFDAC is involved, but most of all of it will come from outside by false importation, declared as something else. So joint effort between NAFDAC, customs, and all others who work at the border, border police, and even immigration will have to be very responsible for overseeing this importation. But wherever the importation is found, they're all tested and then destroyed. The routine police and civil defense definitely also will be aware of production of fake drugs, or even if they're locally manufactured, or trafficking in these drugs, and they definitely have the powers to arrest and present such culprits to the police or to NAFDAC for proper steps. Senator Olamilekun, the NHIS is, as I said in my presentation, still a work in progress. A new executive secretary was just named, and also I understand this chamber here has sent a bill for assent. It's probably being studied now, which will introduce radically new dimensions to National Health Insurance Scheme, particularly the compulsory participation of employees in the health insurance scheme. It's an extremely important financing mechanism for the health sector, and I'm sure it will receive very, very close attention as it begins to unfold. The tertiary healthcare, as I also said, do require reforms. The first step in carrying out a repair is to admit that something is not right. And all of us know by common knowledge that the confidence in our tertiary institutions is not always very high everywhere, although they try their best. But there is a study going on that will give us insights into what is wrong and what the best way to correct the problems, which are mostly administrative problems. The government, the state also suffers losses, financial losses up to $1 billion by estimates, which of capital flight, which are not helpful to us at all. Senator Sadiq, the primary healthcare center is truly the bedrock and the foundation of healthcare everywhere. It is emphasized in the Astana and also the Alma Ata declarations and in the strategic development goals STG 3. It is true that building primary healthcare centers is a favorite, let's say, constituency project of honorable members and senators. In fact, I also use this opportunity to appeal that building such structures for primary health care should be in consultation with the Ministry of Health to tell you exactly where they are needed. And you also need a special design. It cannot be just any house. And then the location also has to be properly selected in order for it to be of best service. The policy of the government is to have at least one primary healthcare center in every political ward. That will be about 9,844, or roughly 10,000. If you have a large ward, you can have 2. But they all have a particular design. And this design should best be maintained. Anyone who wants to build, whether from the private sector or as a philanthropist, should obtain a design from the government, from Ministry of Health, and also advice on the best location. Some primary healthcare centers are located in the bush or in where nobody resides, and nobody will be able to get there at night. The other thing that you can do is that you don't, if you have a constituency project, it doesn't have to be the building of a primary healthcare center. Out of the 30,000 that you mentioned, about 10,000 have been selected for the program of building one in every political ward. So we don't really need more building, we need renovation. And for those who still have an interest in participating, the primary healthcare centers need more than just a place for delivery.
Mr. Nominee, I have a long list of senators who want to ask you questions.
Yes.
So I would advise that you try to be very concise and precise.
Yes, but with your
permission,
permission,
so that you can talk more.
this seems to be very important, but I do think that those who want to help in primary healthcare sector can help with provision of water, provision of solar power, with provision of staff quarters. So if you want to participate, you can look for a primary healthcare center and add staff quarters, solar power, and help with finance training of staff. That will help. It is true that there's been some stagnation in the demographic health survey indices, and the improvement in the primary healthcare sector, particularly also the improvement in transportation, patient transportation, will improve the indices. I do believe that that answers the questions to a reasonable extent.
Senator Matthew Rogide, Senator I.D. Giang, and Senator Sandy Ono, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Matthew Urogide. I represent Edo South Central District, Edo State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, thank you very, very much for this privilege to talk about the nominee that is before us. As a matter of fact, Dr. Emmanuel Osagi Ihanire is from my constituency, Edo South Central District. And of course, was the immediate past Minister of State for Health. Our privilege to be in the Health Committee of the Senate, the 8th Senate, and we work very closely with him. Mr. President, first I want to thank this Senate for the tenacity that we have expressed and of course the seriousness in the screening of our ministerial nominees. And of course, this one that we are doing this afternoon, having Dr. Ihanire before us, the questions that have been thrown at him, of course, will show to us what he has in the CV that he has submitted to us. Dr. Ihanire is one good product. And I will crave your indulgence that you allow me to flaunt it because it's my constituent. He has had the privilege of serving this government in the last 4 years. He's a very close ally and loyal person to Mr. President, our president of this country, President Muhammadu Buhari. They have been together for very many years. And of course, I think in the wisdom of Mr. President, he has seen all the attributes of Dr. Ihanire. And to renominate him, on behalf of my constituency, we want to thank Mr. President. Mr. Ihanire is in the APC, I'm in the PDP. But I think we are also assumed in our quest to have the right caliber of persons rendering services in the different aspects, of our lives in this country. We, the caucus, Edo caucus, we have all agreed that Dr. Ihanire is supported by all of us because he's in the best frame of mind to serve this country. You look at his resume, he left school when, of course, the standard of education was very high, 1963. He was the man who made all distinctions. He went ahead in 1965 to finish higher school certificates. You can see the good results that, he posted. And then, of course, he went outside this country. Of course, as a specialist in surgery and trauma, Dr. Ihanire has, proven his own method. He has done so very well. And now that he has been nominated by Mr. President, I think he's going to be in a better capacity. Maybe by this time, of course, he's going to be a full-fledged minister that, of course, will be able to render service to this country. So, Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, I want to give your indulgence, and with almost humility, I want to ask that Dr. Ihanire takes a bow and go in the face of what he has presented to this Senate. I'm most very grateful. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Supported.
Senator I.D. Giang.
Thank you, Mr. President. And distinguished colleagues,
You are provoking fire.
I sincerely want to commend the minister nominee, but to also say that the ordinary Nigerian has for long been the victim of our systemic inefficiency and endemic corruption. And nowhere else has that found lamentable expression than in the inability of this ordinary Nigerian to access quality health care. As one that has practiced even outside the shores of this country And you have seen what those nations do to cater for their citizens, particularly the ordinary ones. What will you be doing should Mr. President reassign you to the Ministry of Health to remedy this very lamentable position of the ordinary Nigerian and to rescue him from the collective elite conspiracy in this country? Thank you.
Including you. Senator Sandy Ono.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as chair, Sandy Ono, Cross River Central. Dr. Sagie, having taken a look at the CV you have presented to us, I am left with no doubt that your credentials are impeccable, your experience is profound. I would therefore like to align myself with ranking distinguished Senator Matthew to say that you deserve to take a bow and go. But before you do so, very quickly, I'd just like to share two concerns. The first is an issue that has been touched by a colleague of mine, but for which I have not had any real response from you. The issue of insurance cover for our citizens. Health, like education, are so fundamental as far as good delivery, good service delivery and governance is concerned. Across the world, the high, the mighty, and the low have access to quality health. This is not the case in Nigeria. We need to re-engineer our health insurance policy and its implementation. What will you do differently? A lot of Nigerians are dying when they should not. What will you do differently? Secondly, a lot of Nigerians are dying out of malaria. He is taking. The second issue, Mr. Nominee, is this. What will you do differently about malaria? We should be concerned with proactive measures about dealing with malaria, which is killing a lot of people. What will you do differently, please, as you take your bow and leave? Thank you very much.
You can respond now, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Before I respond directly, I wanted to also say that the ratio of what was spent on tertiary health care and on primary health care actually is what prevailed before 2015. Since then, it has balanced out that the primary health care is receiving actually more funding, by far better funding now, in responding to the question of the distinguished senator on that side. But the insurance issue is very patent, and as I said before, before you can correct something, you must accept that there's something that is not right. And we do agree that the health insurance is not right. There is a bill which has, I believe, already passed through this Senate, which is going to bring changes in the health insurance architecture. I also mentioned that various states and communities are participating in community health insurance schemes to increase the pool of funding for reaching patients with healthcare delivery. As to what will be done differently, well, there is a lot to be done across the entire board. The tertiary healthcare, I already said something about that, and the secondary healthcare I also said something about. But as to the question of malaria, the malaria deaths are actually in decline statistically. So there is a result for all the investment that has gone into malaria elimination. There is no end to it because we are talking about malaria elimination. So we don't rest on our oars, and there's been significant improvement in the fatalities that come from malaria. I believe that's all, distinguished President.
Is it the wish of this Senate that the nominee takes a bow? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow.
Osage Ehanire, the nominee from Edo State, has been screened. The immediate past Minister of State Health. Well, the senators took him round some pertinent questions, especially those bordering on primary health care in Nigeria, and how to improve the National Health Insurance Scheme, and how to totally save Nigeria from fake drugs. But the doctor explained that the primary health care in Nigeria, being aware that it's a very significant sector, part of the health sector, he also advised members of the National Assembly to always consult with the Ministry of Health whenever they want to establish primary health care centers as their constituency projects, which most often they don't. And then he also observed that improvement in patients' transportation will tremendously improve service delivery in the primary healthcare sector. Well, the senators also asked him what he has done to reduce malaria infection in the country. Well, he said the statistics at the moment shows there has been significant reduction in malaria fatality.
Colleagues, my point of order is Order 43, and it says, personal explanation. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon explanation. The times of the proposed statement shall be submitted in details to the Senate President when the leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, I just spoke with you when I came in. Distinguished colleagues, you observe that I was not present at the
distinguished senators, by our Standing Order 39, the arrangement of business, personal explanation will not work as soon as the order of the day starts. But I also have under 25, our Standing Order 25H, that job and task of interpreting the rules. So I will allow Senator Allen Dume to present his personal explanation based on the powers conferred on me to interpret the rules in Standing Order 25H. You can go ahead.
Very protective. Yeah. We're guided. Order.
Just 1%. Thank you, Mr. President. Anyway, I hope Mr. President will take note and strictly adhere to the rules. Because just yesterday, distinguished Senator Goje raised a point of order without even explanation, and he was allowed to make his explanation. And by the way, I was here.
Senator Allen Dume, address the chair. Don't mind the side talks. You are protected.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it was necessary for me to make this personal explanation. As I said, I did not attend the morning sitting, and the simple reason was the parents of a man that wants my daughter's hand in marriage were to bring the dowry. And it is not in my tradition, for example, to announce or tell my colleagues when dowry is brought. I didn't know that it would translate into marriage. So when they came and they asked for... No, the money is just... Yes, our daughter. No, the money is too small. That's why you pay me the balance. Yes. Let me explain. Amanda, please, Mr. Chair, protect me. I'm explaining something. Chairman, please protect me. I'm trying to explain to them.
Senator Lundume, I will protect you, but I want you to address the chair. Don't mind the side talks. Just concentrate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, the essence of the personal explanation is ordinarily I will at least write to the Senate to inform our colleagues here in chamber, including the staff, about the wedding of my daughter, which is the tradition in the Senate here. But I told you, circumstances made it that we have to conduct the wedding according to Islamic tradition in my house, and we did that, and I felt that coming here, because it has gone already viral, and many of you here who are father to my daughter will feel offended. That's why I explained. And lastly, according to Philip Aduda, my tradition is that, and in Islam, the least dowry that is to be paid according to Islam is rubu dinar. That translates to about, as of today, 18,000. But I was given the dowry of my daughter is 100,000, and the Igbo guys here know that how much they give out there. So I need the balance. I need the balance. So I want to apologize. I want to apologize for not informing you. It was circumstantial. I would have announced it. So I want you to help me pray for the marriage of my daughters. Thank you very much.
Senator Alundume, on behalf of the distinguished senators, my colleagues here, we want to congratulate you on the wedding of our daughter. Congratulations. And we wish the family a very happy and fruitful family life and married life. Sergeant at Arms, next nominee, please.
The next nominee for screening is Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Born in January 1970, a columnist and human rights activist, he received a Bachelor of Law degree in 1992 from Ambrose Ali University, Eboma, Edo State, and was called to the Nigerian bar on December 1993. Festus Keyamo was also the spokesperson of the President Muhammadu Buhari campaign administration 2019.
Distinguished colleagues, the nominee on the podium is Mr. Festus Keamo, SAN, nominee from Delta State. Mr. Keamo, on behalf of my distinguished colleagues, I want to welcome you to the Senate chamber. We already have copies of your CV. And as the tradition here is, you can highlight those things in the CV that you think the Senate should particularly take note of. And in addition, you could also mention those things that are not in the CV but you feel are important and significant for this exercise. Once again, on behalf of my colleagues, you are welcome to the screening exercise and you can address the Senate now.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, sitting here as the Chairman of the Committee of the Whole Senate, the Deputy Senate President, my Senator, who is my Senator representing me in the Delta Central Senatorial District, Ubarisi, Obioma Agege, all principal officers of this great Senate, my senators from my states, great gentlemen that I know, distinguished Senator Peter Womboshi and distinguished Senator James Manager, and all distinguished senators. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Festus Egwarewa Adeniyi Keyamo. My father is from Delta State, and my mother is from Ogun State, so I have a pan-Nigerian view. I want to first of all give God all the glory, give God all the adoration and all the praise for making it possible for me to stand before you here today. The fact that I'm standing before you here today, if I look at my antecedent and my past and my upbringing, can only be the work of God and not the work of man. And it is God using President Muhammadu Buhari as a pencil in his hands to make it possible for me to be here today. And I give God all the glory for that. Distinguished senators, the story of my life, since I left university about 2.5 decades ago, and I was called to the bar, and I'm sure as you all know, has been one that has been totally dedicated to the crusade for social justice using the instrumentality of the law. I have used the instrumentality of the law at all stages of my life to fight for social justice, to fight for human rights, to fight for accountable governments, and to promote and entrench democracy. And about 10 years ago, I took this further by even accepting to serve as a lead prosecutor to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And in that role, I have prosecuted so many high-profile individuals in courts. And so I've been an active prosecutor and a general practitioner of law all these years. In that role as a prosecutor, I have won some of my cases. Like all lawyers, I have lost some of my cases. like all lawyers, and many of them are still in court and on appeal. It is also that passion to entrench democracy that made me some years ago, I went to court to enforce the powers of this National Assembly on my own volition, on my own expense. I fought for this National Assembly in respect of the appointment of service chiefs, on my own. I continuously drew the attention of this Senate and the House of Representatives to their powers regarding the appointment of service chiefs, and the President needed the concurrence of this House. And when they didn't listen to me, I went to court. And in a landmark judgment, I won the case where the court said service chiefs must come and bow before this House before they can be appointed. And after that judgment, all the service chiefs were sacked, new service chiefs were appointed, and since that judgment, all service chiefs have been coming to the National Assembly to get their approval. That is the kind of passion I've had to fight, even for the National Assembly. The passion for human rights have also led me to defend across the country, irrespective of tribe and religion, students who have been detained illegally, civil rights activists, journalists, social crusaders across the country, free of charge. All of this free of charge. And I know many of them listening to me across the country can testify to this. And even though I don't believe in a separatist agenda in this country, I don't believe, but that passion for human rights have also led me to even defend separatist leaders. Apart from their vision, their crusade for separatism, I defended them in respect of their human rights alone. Separatist leaders for even, in respect of organizations like MASOB, like the Biafran Independent Movement, like the Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force, like the MOSOP, many of the separatists, and I got most of them out of detention, free of charge. That has been my passion for human rights, using the instrumentality of the law. And because of all of this, like you see my CV, it earned me the Global Award of Human Rights in 2007 by the United States Global Institute, a Global Leadership Council in Washington in 2017. I was conferred with the Global Human Rights Award. I've had the rare privilege to have been brought up and mentored by two or perhaps the strongest characters in this country. And I'm perhaps the only person who've had that privilege. Two of the strongest characters in terms of anti-corruption and human rights. And that is Chief Gani Fawemi, who brought me up, like you see my CV. And of course, President Muhammadu Buhari right now. I am the only person who enjoys that privilege. Two of the strongest characters in this country have mentored me. And so, in the pursuit of all of this, I have asked so many questions of governments in the past. I have asked governments as to how our monies have been used or misused, how public monies have been spent or misspent, and how public monies have been appropriated or misappropriated. But I discovered that there's only so much you can do as a private individual. I discovered that. I didn't get answers. And then, it was then I took a conscious decision some years ago to be part of a political process that could get us into power. I took a conscious decision. Because that conscious decision I took was because I discovered that what you can be screaming on the outside for 10 years to achieve, because you are brimming with ideas, you are brimming with all kinds of solutions to our problems on the outside. And you can be screaming for 10 years. You can achieve that in 10 minutes when you are part of government and part of a political process. Because you see, it is a natural inclination of governments all over the world to see critics on the outside as enemies. So they take your views with a pinch of salt. They see opposition as, it's natural all over the world, as enemies. So I took that conscious decision to be part of a political process. And that was during the formation of the All Progressive Congress, the APC. And I joined the APC in Delta State. I was a foundation member of the APC in Delta State. The first major meeting held in Delta State involving the national leaders that came to Delta State, because we didn't have a government. Delta is a PDP state, and we didn't have a government. That meeting was held in my house, in Efru, in my parlor. And so I can say that the APC was formed in my house in Delta State. It's not a surprise I'm standing here today as a nominee of the APC from that state. It was formed in my house, the APC. And so I discovered that you can change your methodology in the fight for the rights of the people by being part of the process. You can change your methodology without changing your basic principles and your essence as a person. You can do that. And so that is why I decided to serve, to accept to serve. Despite all I have said and all my antecedents, I've decided to serve. I've decided to be part of the process. And with your kind permission, your kind consideration, if you do approve me, I want to be part of the process, and I think I have a lot to prove, and I want to make a change. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much.
Distinguished Senator Michael Opeyemi Bamidele.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting in the chair. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Michael Opeyemi Bamidele, representing Ekiti Central Senatorial District. Our dear nominee, I begin by congratulating you as a Nigerian citizen, because you have a reputation that precedes you. And for those of us who are familiar with your antecedents, and for somebody like me who can describe himself, as a matter of fact, as a product of the same struggle with you, struggle of Nigerian students over the years, struggle of Nigerian youth, struggle of the civil society, and partly a creation of the Nigerian media. I am happy to be a part of this process. I have two questions for you. God, through the Senate and ultimately through Mr. President, granting you the opportunity to serve in the Federal Cabinet of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the first thing that will stare you on the face is that being a public administrator is far so different from being an activist. In other words, Mr. Nominee, how would you be able to handle that delicate balancing, that the poor will continue to find their voice in you, the civil society, the less privileged, will continue to find their voice in you, and even the rich and wealthy will have to find their voice in you as a public servant? And suddenly it dawns on you that internally generated revenue trickles in a little at a time. And many of those things that we would have wished as a civil activist to be done as soon as yesterday cannot be done. So how will you balance the two? That you don't lose the administration of your admirers, and at the same time you're able to discharge the responsibilities bestowed on you as a public servant based on the realities of governance. And secondly, I would like you, again, in a nutshell, to tell this Senate, and of course Nigerians, who I'm sure are also listening to you, your philosophy of life, and how you believe this will be brought to bear to be a strong addition to the performing team of President Buhari. It's important that I hear you out on this. Mr. President, I thank you again for the opportunity.
The DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Uvi Omo Agege, I represent Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, first, like I did earlier on today, I'd like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to Mr. President for this great nomination. I also want to extend my congratulations to my brother, the nominee, my constituent. Mr. President, Senator James Manager will speak for my caucus. But before he does that, as a senator representing him, I thought I should put in a few words. I rise today, Mr. President, as the first defense witness to corroborate everything he has told the Senate today. Mr. President, this is one nomination that will add value to the Federal Executive Council, headed by Mr. President. Mr. President, I know Festus Kayamo. He's a very decent man. He is a great ambassador of my people, the Yoruba nation, that I have the privilege to represent here. He is also a great ambassador for my state. Mr. President, in his practice of law, he has left his imprints, footprints in the sands of time. There's no area of the law where you will not see Keyamo's landmark contributions. Yes. But having said that, Mr. President, I just have a couple of questions for him. Or do I call them concerns, for want of a better expression? Mr. Keyamo, as a lawyer of so many years and a senior advocate of Nigeria, you've traversed most of our courts, the High Court of the state, the Federal High Court, the Court of Appeal, and indeed the Supreme Court. You know, for want of a better expression, you know where the bodies are buried. I want to ask you, what major reforms would you want to see in the justice sector, having practiced for so many years? Then number two, we've had so many issues, so many concerns expressed by well-meaning Nigerians about the saturation of the ballot paper with so many political parties, mushroom political parties that ordinarily should not even exist. But because of the provisions of Section 222 of the Constitution, to the extent that INEC adjudges you to have made the requirements for registration of a political party, you are registered and placed on the ballot. For those of us who participated in this last general elections, I think about 74 or thereabout political parties participated in the elections, and were all listed in the ballot papers. The game now is to struggle to have your name begin with A or something, so you can be at the very top, because it becomes easy for you to with your apologies. I thought Senator Richards was here. You know, there's now a battle, a running battle to have. Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, sir. To have your name right there at the very top of the ballot. So that's the only way you can pretty much stand out, you know, in the midst of 70 to 80 political parties. People are not happy about this. When you go, some people have made the argument that INEC, pursuant to provisions of the Electoral Act, have the power to deregister political parties who do not otherwise perform well in the elections. But some of us, we think otherwise because of the provisions of the Section 222 of the Constitution that may require some constitutional amendment. I'd like you to share your thoughts on this as a good and versatile legal practitioner. With this, Mr. President and my colleagues, I'm not going to say you should take a bow and go. I won't do that. It's a good product. But if in the event you decide to extend that courtesy, I will also welcome it. Thank you very much.
Senator Ama Michael Nachi, then the Senate Minority Leader, and Senator Dino Melaye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, distinguished colleagues. My name is Nachi Michael Ama, representing the people of Ebonyi South. Mr. Keyamo-san, looking at your CV, I discovered that you were a board member of NDIC. And that is correct?
Yes.
And then, looking at NDIC and the purpose in which it was established, and knowing your character, being a fighter for the masses, I just want to ask, the last time Nigerian banks became distressed was 2003. But up to date, Barrister Keyamo, a lot of customers that deposited their money in these banks have not received back their money. And it does appear that NDIC is now in comatose. Why, since 2018, you were there? As a person we know too well, these people are still being owed, and NDIC has gone into comatose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as the chair. My good friend, Festus Keyamo, he knows this, my friend. We have done some battles together. And I'm very, very reassured by the words of the Deputy Senate President that says that you're a good product and we can ask you any question, which means that you know the law inside out. The Constitution, in the 5th schedule, section 11, defines the duties of the Code of Conduct of public officers. Yet, there is a committee going around usurping the functions of the Code of Conduct Bureau called the Oblak Committee, the Presidential Committee on Asset Recovery. Tell us and tell Nigerians, as a promoter and a defender of the law that you have said, why you have not defended all these people that have been illegally asked by a committee to come and give asset accounts or whatever to them, because that committee is not in this Constitution. And I know you will do justice to this.
Senator Dino Melaye.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. I want to start by congratulating my buddy and friend, Festus Keyamo, And our relationship actually dates some years back, not recent. I just want to start by saluting your intellectual sagacity. And from your CV, you've practiced law in and out. And this practice has been so recognized by awarding you the highest title any lawyer can earn in this country, the senior advocate of Nigeria. And you have been a prosecutor with the EFCC for so many years. So I want to quote section 174 of the Constitution and then ask my question in that regard. Section 150 talks about who is qualified to be the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice. Section 174, with the permission of the chair, I read. 174 says the Attorney General of the Federation shall have powers to any person, to bring any person, before the court of law in Nigeria or other than a court-martial in respect of offenses created by or under the Act of this National Assembly, to take over and continue any such criminal proceedings that may have been instituted by any other authority, persons, and to discontinue at any stage before judgment is delivered by any such criminal proceeding instituted undertaken by him or any other person. That is what we call the power of nolli prosecute. But that power, Mr. President or Mr. Chairman, and my respected colleagues, can only be exercised conditionally. So the Constitution in 2 gave those conditions that must be met before those powers can be exercised. And it really does. The power conferred upon the Attorney General of the Federation under subsection 1 of this section may be exercised by him in person or through officers of his department. In exercising his powers under this section, the Attorney General of the Federation shall have regard to 3 things. 1, public interest. 2, the interest of justice. And 3, the need to prevent abuse of legal process. I want to ask you, as a qualified lawyer, and a man who is even qualified for the office of the Attorney General of the Federation, but peradventure the President sent you to the Ministry of Justice with all your area of experiences. Do you think in the last 4 years, the powers of the Attorney General to grant nolli prosecute have met these 3 conditions? 1, that of public interest. 2, the interest of justice. And 3, the need to prevent abuse of legal process. Litany of nolli prosecute have been granted, but I want to ask you, using your celestial mind as an activist, to respond to this question. And secondly, I just want to say that as a versatile minister, I know you to be intellectually mobile. You recite the 2nd stanza of the national anthem. Thank you.
That is not a question. That is not a question. So you have asked about 2 questions.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
The distinguished Dino, that is not a question.
Mr. Chairman, screening as described is to screen a candidate. And, excuse me.
No, it's okay. That is not a question. You have asked very, very direct questions, so you can disregard the latter part. You can respond to the questions, please.
Thank you. Thank you, the President of the Senate. Let me start with because of the constraint of time, perhaps, that we'll run into, let me start with the question asked by distinguished Senator Ovie Omoagege. The first question was the major reforms that I would like to see in the justice sector. We all agree that our justice sector has been beset by so many problems. And so I think we don't doubt that at all. But then let me say that I'll be prepared to serve in any capacity that the president wants me to serve. But if I'm AGF, I have what the idea I call the 3Ds that would be at the heart of judicial reforms, the 3Ds. And the first D is the decongestion of the Supreme Court. The second one would be the decongestion of the prisons. And the third one will be the decongestion of court lists in courts across the country. And that is, of course, linked directly to speedy trials. Now, as to the decongestion of the Supreme Court, I would not occupy the office of AGF for 4 years without unbundling the Supreme Court. That would be my first task, to unbundle the Supreme Court. Our Supreme Court is the busiest Supreme Court in the world. And it's just not acceptable. The kinds of cases that go up to our Supreme Court are scandalous. Interlocutory appeals. Appeals dealing with, frivolous matters. And I think this country is big enough now to have 6 regional Supreme Courts where appeals coming from those regions would end there in land matters, contract matters, marriage, and all of that. I mean, as the Supreme Court is designed today, you won't believe, distinguished senators, that a case of assault, I slap you, you slap me, will go up to the Supreme Court and be lining up with constitutional matters and political matters to be heard. That is scandalous. And that is why today, the cases at the Supreme Court are pending there for the last 10 to 15 years. Justice delayed is justice denied. The diary of the Supreme Court I speak with you now is filled up to 2022. You cannot get a date at the Supreme Court now till 2022. Yes, now, except political cases. And the political cases are compounding the issues again. So, I don't know why it has not been possible to simply establish regional Supreme Courts. And so the Supreme Court in Abuja would only entertain constitutional matters, political matters, and election disputes. Matters that have to do with the interpretation of the Constitution, because at that point you need the Central Supreme Court to guide the entire Supreme Court across the country. And even at that point, in matters of constitutional interpretation, distinguished senators, it is scandalous also for a Supreme Court that has 21 justices, for 7 of them to sit to bind others, because the Supreme Court, by the principles of stare decisis, is bound by its own decisions. So if you have a constitutional matter going to the Supreme Court now, 7 justices sit, 4 can overrule 3. So you have 4 justices giving their opinion on a very serious matter, binding 17 others who have no opportunity to contribute to that judgment. And tomorrow, if those 17 others come, or part of those 17 others, and they want to determine that same matter, they will be bound by that decision, even if they have a separate view about it. It's scandalous. So there's something wrong about that system. In constitutional matters, I would press for constitutional amendment to make all the 21 justice seats, because that's our ground norm. The Constitution is our ground norm. So 4 people cannot determine our ground norm, where 21 are there. And then we're all bound by that. These are things that are wrong with our Supreme Court. So I will make a holistic unbundling of the Supreme Court and complete restructuring of the Supreme Court. Again, they have very scandalous applications. You see, there are things we borrowed from Britain that are still bogging us down in terms of delay of cases. For example, the provision in the Constitution of leave to appeal. It is there in the Constitution that you must seek leave to appeal in certain matters. Over time, leave has been granted as a matter of course. But for you, before you appeal, a matter where you have judgment against you, instead of you just having the right to appeal directly, you first file a motion for leave to appeal. That motion for leave to appeal is pending for 5 years. For you to just seek a permission to appeal. I mean, why? Why do we still allow these antiquarian laws in our constitution? And these are things borrowed from Britain. It's only in exceptional cases they deny you leave to appeal now. Remove all provisions regarding leave to appeal. Let everybody have a right to appeal. Except, of course, the time to appeal, you can seek for extension of time. There should be time limit. But leave to appeal is antiquarian. Remove it from the constitution. Everybody should appeal as a matter of right. And so you can unbundle the Supreme Court with all of this. The congestion of prisons, which is the second D, is that we are not complying with provisions of the law. I want to pay tribute to the 7th Assembly that passed the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. If you look at the provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, provisions have been made there, adequate provisions, to address the congestions of our cells and our prisons. For instance, every police station in every part of this country should open its cell to the nearest magistrate court at regular intervals for the magistrate to just come and say, open your cell, I want to see who are those you are detaining here and why you are detaining them. The provision is there. The DPOs are supposed to make returns to the magistrates to say, look, we have arrested this person, we are detaining them for this reason, and all and all. They are not complying with those provisions right now. Nobody's complying with those provisions. There are adequate provisions there. But the Administration of Criminal Justice Act is only applicable to federal courts because it's the National Assembly that passed it. Federal courts in Abuja and all of that. Now, it's only a few states that have adopted the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. I think Kogi and some other states. 1 or 2 other states. Now, for states that have not adopted the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, the scandalous situation we see now is that a person is arrested on a frivolous charge, arraigned in court on a supposedly capital offense. Once the magistrate court says murder, armed robbery, even without a proof of evidence attached, they just say remand. We must amend the law and encourage state governments across the country to amend their criminal procedure acts or codes to ensure that at the point the magistrate is entertaining the charge against those accused persons, instead of sending them to remand, the magistrate should have powers to call for proof of evidence at that stage. Don't tell me that you want to take the file to DPP for advice. I want to see whether you have proof of evidence. If you don't have proof of evidence, even if I see murder, I will release him on bail. If I don't see any proof of evidence attached. Because, with apologies to the police, they arrest people on the road. And because you don't have 5,000 for bail, the next day they just type armed robbery and take you to court and remand. And the person starts a journey of 6 years in the prison without bail. That file will be sent to DPP maybe 2 years later. The person is still waiting. The DPP gets the file, the DPP keeps the file for another 4 years. It's not attending to the file. Because of our corrupt system. If you got a corrupt DPP, unless the person has somebody or people to come and push that file will never live there for him to give us advice. When there is no charge, no evidence against that person. And so our prisons are full of these awaiting advice people. They are full. How can we avoid this? Let us give the magistrates power to grant bail in respect of so-called capital offenses if there's no proof of evidence at that stage. And then, even that of course links to the question that my very good friend Dino Malai asked about the powers of the DPP and the Attorney General that can be subject to abuse. I think it is high time we amend the law to make the advice of the Attorney General and DPP subject to judicial review. It's high time. The Attorney General and the DPP cannot sit down in their office and exercise the judicial function and say you have no case to answer. The powers were put there to protect, of course, people who will be charged, with frivolous offenses. That's why they put the power there, so that the DPP can say, don't face trial because it will be frivolous. But on the other hand, it is subject to abuse where people who are actually guilty are freed by the DPP by advice. So we should And to answer Dino Melaye's question, Distinguished Senator Dino Melaye, that's Section 174. Without indicting my very good friend Malami, because I know he's a gentleman, he wouldn't withdraw any charge if he did not see the fact that there's no offense there. And I can vouch for him. If there's any case like that, Malami must have seen that there was no case. I can vouch for Malami in my sleep. He's a distinguished colleague. But there are other attorneys general across the states who we don't know, who can exercise and abuse this power. And so if the DPP gives an advice and say, there's no case against you, let gentlemen, distinguished senators, let us amend the Constitution to make that power subject to judicial review, so that the people who are aggrieved can go to court with that advice and call for the proof of evidence. And the magistrate will say, the Attorney General, you are wrong, because this case, as I'm saying, there's prima facie case against these people. Charge them to court. We cannot give the Attorney Generals the power of the judiciary to perform the functions of the judiciary. But let me say that the conditions in Section 174 right now, the other scandalous provision there, you put conditions there, but you make them subjective. So Senator Demelaye is correct to the point that these conditions are put there. But the Supreme Court has ruled in several cases that you cannot question the discretion of the Attorney General. So if the Attorney General says, I have looked at it, and those three conditions have been met, the Supreme Court said, well, it is his discretion. They will not even question that discretion. It is wrong. It's wrong. So our constitution is replete with mistakes, antiquarian provisions that we must amend.
Chief Kiamo, please respond to all the questions they raised, and then we call on Senator James Manager to make his comments or ask his questions finally.
Just quickly, so I don't exhaust the time. As to the restriction of political parties in the country, my humble view is that we must strike a balance between opening up the political space, which a democracy allows. We must open up the political space to everybody. Strike a balance between that and, of course, ensuring that frivolous parties do not put pressure on the public purse. I was the collation agent for Mr. President at the last election. And by the time they gave us the result sheet, it was like a big wrapper. Like the 74 parties, 74 candidates. Some of them did not even have up to 1,000 votes. Some of them had no votes at all in both parts of the country. So how do we allow, and then INEC has to now print ballot papers to accommodate them, the ballot paper, and then that's pressure on the public purse. How do we address this? Distinguished senators, I think we can strike a balance by saying, for new parties to be registered, you must show capacity at some small level first, before you now come and contest for presidency. Register political parties, fine, but you cannot run for president or senate until you go and run for local government election first. Until you win a councillorship seat, you can reduce it to even one councillorship seat. Until you win a councillorship seat, you cannot run for governorship. Until you win one governorship, you cannot run for senate, and on like that. And so you graduate. They show capacity to begin to graduate. They show capacity at that level. We can strike a balance by passing this kind of laws to ensure that we all participate in the political process, but we also do not allow all kinds of people to put pressure on the public purse. Now, the questions are also so many. Distinguished Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele, my senior in the struggle, my leader and political leader and leader in the struggle also, asked the question as how we handle activism and governance. I think people don't realize that governance is activism. It's just that because over the years, people have seen politicians as corrupt, as inept, and all that. It's wrong. We have distinguished senators here who are fighting for the rights of their people. They cannot fight for the rights of their people without being here. And I said before that there's only so much you can do as a private person. Being here, distinguished senators, you know what you are doing. You are fighting for consumer protection. You are passing laws on consumer protection. You are passing laws regarding the rights of the people and how to give them succor. That is activism. Activism is not, we have great activists here as senators. That is the truth. Activism is not when you just buy one Android phone and begin to abuse everybody every day. That's not activism. Or activism is not when you begin to burn down vehicles and march. That's not activism. Activism is how to bring, you say you are an activist and you are burning the cars of innocent people on the road. How are you bringing succor to them? Are those cars belonging to the president that you want to quarrel against? That's stupidity. I apologize. The greatest activists are those in governance, and the greatest activists are people in the legislature, in governance. That is how.
Mr. President, 2 more minutes, 2 more minutes.
And quickly as to my philosophy of life, I want to put it very simple, in simple language. I don't want to die without making a loud statement for society and for the poor and the downtrodden. I don't want to die. And that is why I've been restless since I was called to the bar. And I'm sure you know that I eventually grew up in front of the nation. Everybody saw me since I was in my 20s. I'm almost 50 now. But every single year, I have been restless in fighting for one thing or the other. And everybody watched me grow. The man standing here, is that restless young lawyer you used to do many years ago that has grown to become a senior advocate of Nigeria standing here before you. So I grew up before your eyes, virtually. And so I have been restless because I don't want to die without making a loud statement.
Time up, Mr. President.
And for the
Thank you very much. Distinguished Senator Manager, please. Distinguished Senator Manager. Which question hasn't he answered?
Should I? Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
No, you answer. Yeah.
2 minutes, yes. Thank you very much. I was brimming to answer that question, actually, because I didn't want to leave here without answering that question. On the code of conduct and its provisions, and vis-a-vis the powers, the so-called powers, like you put it, of the Presidential Panel on Recovery of Property, there's a problem. The problem is that you allow the law to remain in your books. That law was passed in 1984. The law regarding recovery of public properties was a decree. And when we now, I'll finish, I'll tie it in. And when we now transited to civil rule, they said all those laws now become acts of parliament. And so that law says the president has powers to set up any panel to recover public property. Let me tell you the difference. The code of conduct is a constitution, the constitution did not, no, hold on, sir, with respect, sir, did not criminalize those provisions regarding the code of conduct. It is that act that now makes it criminal offense. That's the difference. So it's not in conflict. The code of conduct, they will only ban you from public office, they will not send you to jail. But that act now makes it a criminal offense. So I am also the lead prosecutor to the panel at some point. I'm the lead prosecutor. And then the Court of Appeal has actually curtailed the powers now. There's a judgment that the Court of Appeal says you cannot charge anybody to court. You can only investigate. And pass your investigation over to the Attorney General for the Attorney General to make a choice. So there's a Court of Appeal judgment. Anything beyond that is abuse of power. Anything beyond that is abuse of power.
Distinguished colleagues, please.
I did that case. My case at the Court of Appeal. I did that case.
Mr. Nominee, I think you have answered enough on that. Distinguished Senator James Iboru, Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President, seated as chair, the Deputy Senate President, my highly respected colleagues, James Manager Delta South. Mr. President, you can see how excited I am.
Yes, you have a good product.
Really? Of course, I am. for obvious reasons. And you know the reasons why. And you see me bouncing. Because that is what Delta is all about.
The manager of the Senate.
Mr. President, the irrepressible Festus Kayam, Lenin sick. I said it all. And he has given good account of his personality, of what he stands for, and of course for what he represents. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, the Delta Caucus, of course led by the able Deputy Senate President, he has mandated me to speak on behalf of the caucus. The Deputy Senate President, Ovie Omagege, distinguished senator, the senator representing Delta North, another lawyer.
Oracle.
All the three senators from Delta State are lawyers and also very senior at the bar. Mr. President, we have come to the agreement and we speak for the entire Delta State. And between yesterday and today, we have consulted very widely. And the entire Delta State is behind this nominee. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, he has told us about who he is. He has used the instrumentality of the law to fight for social justice. He has used the jurisprudence of the law to ask questions about the law as it is and the law as it ought to be. Mr. President, he has said it all. And of course, Mr. President, Festus Keyamo is from Delta State, a proud constituent of the Deputy Senate President. And of course, this is very significant.
Delta and Ogun.
Delta and Ogun State. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, to avoid wasting your time, because it's like the entire Senate is together, that this senator must take, this nominee must take his bow and go. The Deputy Senate President represents him, and that is very significant, my respected colleagues. So, Mr. President, I hereby say that the senior advocate of Nigeria, and when, after listening to him, it is very obvious that we need to separate the office of the Attorney General from the office of the Honorable the Minister of Justice. Mr. President, I move that let the nominee take his bow and go. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Well, thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. I can see Delta is in contention with Oyo. No. What I'm saying, the joke is Oyo State yesterday, the caucus presented their nominee and they started by asking him questions themselves. And the nominee did extremely well. That was the judgment. Delta is in contention, isn't it? Distinguished colleagues, I can see the mood is that Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, takes a bow and go. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the latest ministerial nominee to be screened by the Senate. Well, the lawyer and the human rights activist said if assigned to the Minister of Justice, he will apply what he calls his 3 Ds. That is, decongest the Supreme Court, decongest the court, and decongest the prisons. Well, he explained that he will carry out a holistic restructuring of the Supreme Court by unbundling it and creating a system of regional Supreme Courts across the country. He said by decongesting the prisons, he called for the amendment of Criminal Procedure Act. He also said that the powers of the Attorney General of the Federation and Director of Public Prosecution should be subjected to judicial review. Well, on the issue of restriction of proliferation of political parties, he said INEC should ensure that frivolous political parties should not be meant to put financial pressure on public polls. In fact, he suggested that new parties should first contest at local levels first and prove their capacity before graduating into national politics.
Come on.
At the moment, 4 nominees have been screened. Abubakar Malami from Kebbi State, Hadi Surika, Katsina, Osage Ehanire, Edo State, and Festus Keyamo, Delta State. Well, we are expecting the next nominee to enter the red chamber. From the announcement, we expect the nominee from Plateau State, Pauline Tallinn, to enter the red chamber and then defend her nomination as a potential Minister of the Federal Republic. This is the second session of the day's screening. The first took place in the morning, and then here comes the next nominee from Plateau State, Pauline Tallinn. Well, she is the former governor of Plateau State. She is the former deputy governor of Plateau State, I beg your pardon. She was appointed Minister of State for Science and Technology in 2007. She has a degree in sociology from the University of Jos in 1982. She is the 5th female nominee to have appeared to this chamber for screening. But then since the screening commenced on Wednesday, the Senate had applied some peculiar traditions to women. That is the fact that all the women that appeared here previously, they were meant to take a bow and then leave. And it's expected that that same privilege will be accorded to this female nominee from Plateau State. Now she has mounted the podium, ready to face the senators.
Distinguished colleagues, the nominee before us is the nominee from Plateau State, Her Excellency Dame Pauline Kendem Tallinn. On behalf of my colleagues, I want to welcome you to the Senate chamber. We have your CV, and you can highlight those things in the CV that we feel the Senate should take note of. You can also inform the Senate of anything that you might have omitted from the CV, but of significance for this exercise of screening. Once again, you are welcome, and this Senate is gender sensitive. We want to start supporting our female nominees right from screening up to the completion of your assignment or duty tour. You can address the Senate now.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, our most distinguished Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished Senator Lawal Ahmed, our most distinguished Deputy Senate President, all principal officers here present. I want to specially acknowledge my 3 senators from Plateau State. Distinguished Senator Ignatius Longjan, my own senator from the Southern Zone. Distinguished Senator Hezekiah Dimka from the Central Zone. And distinguished Senator Aidi Gyang from the Northern Zone. I want to also use this opportunity to specially congratulate all the distinguished senators in this hallowed, most respected chamber. I have congratulated most of you, but I want to use this opportunity to congratulate all of you because God brought you here for a purpose. You were selected by your people out of millions of Nigeria for a purpose. I congratulate you and I celebrate you. I want to take this opportunity to specially celebrate my 7 female distinguished senators in this red chamber. And I pray, Mr. Senate President, and all the distinguished senators of this House, that you give them the necessary support so that together we can move Nigeria forward. I want to put on record and to specially thank Mr. President for nominating me as one of his nominees for the ministerial slot for this second term. I feel humbled, really humbled, to stand before you in this hallowed chamber for the second time. I was here in 1999, and again, God deemed it fit for me to be nominated by Mr. President to come and serve under this administration as the federal minister for the second time. I want to thank the Almighty God for the large number of supporters that have accompanied me. I have both the state and federal, all the federal legislators, members of the House of Reps are all here to support me. In the gallery, I have former chairmen of local government, former speakers, former members of the House of Assembly, they are all here, and friends across all the 36 states. I am non-tribalistic. I don't discriminate. I also want to put on record that God brought you here for a purpose, to support Mr. President, because Mr. President was brought back for the second time for a purpose. Mr. President is not a magician. He alone cannot do the magic. But with your total support and cooperation, I believe that we will be able to make a difference in this country. My name is Pauline Talen. I come from a humble family in Shandam. I went through my primary school in the most prestigious RCM Primary School, Shandam, from 1966 to 71. And from 1972 to 76, I went to the most prestigious Government Girls College, Dala. It was like a unity school then. And the best outstanding students in the 19 states of the Federation were picked to go to Dala. I finished in 1976 from Government Girls College, Dala. I went to we were the first set in prelim SPH Kefi from 1977 to 78. From there, I got admission to the University of Jos from 1979 to 82. I read sociology, and my life has been that of service to humanity. I'm the first woman on the plateau to set up the first model nursery and primary school outside the city in the local government council, because I believe in rural development. And I believe the greatest asset we can give our children is education. Education is key and is the life asset that you can give a child. I pray and plead with all of us here that together, the federal executive and the legislature must work together in order to move this country forward. It is on record that when I was minister from 1999 to 2003, I worked very well with all the committee members in the Senate and the House of Reps. And with that synergy, we can be able to move forward. I will be an advocate to ensure that we work together peacefully, amicably, in order to help Mr. President move this country forward. Looking at all of you gathered here, I can see hope for Nigeria. I can see my brothers. I wish I could acknowledge each one of you. I can see my dear brothers. I can see my in-laws, because my children married across all the country, the 6 geopolitical zone. I have in-laws in Edo. I have in-laws in the Northeast. I have in-laws in the Southwest. I believe that with your support and cooperation, we will be able to support Mr. President to make this country a better place. The 3 cardinal points of this administration is to fight corruption, security, and the economy. And I pray that together we'll be able to put our heads together to fight corruption, to ensure that security, which is the greatest problem we are facing, that we cope and ensure that we fight the security challenges to a standstill. I thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Without prejudice to senators or distinguished colleagues from Plateau State, when we entertain our female nominees, the 2 leaders normally speak on behalf of the Senate, and the state caucuses are not privileged in the circumstance. So I'm pleading for the understanding of our colleagues from Plateau State. It's something we have said for ourselves. Senate Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as the chair, Ainaya Baribe, Abia South. In making a comment before I yield to my leader, I wanted to say that Dame Pauline Talent, we know her DNA.
Yes. Yes. Oh my own, oh my own.
She's
on loan.
She has been, like me, a deputy governor. That means that I'm close and understand. She has also been a minister. The only unfortunate thing was that in her CV, while writing that she's a minister, she didn't write under which party. And so Dame Pauline Talent will have the distinction in Nigeria of serving in 2 different cabinets, in 2 different parties. Nobody claps here. And so Dame Pauline Talent, a quintessential mobilizer, because she has always, since the time of better life, she has always been known and been there. We wish to extend our congratulations to you and ask you to, when you get
in whatever capacity that Mr. President deems fit for you to serve, that you will continue to give service to Nigerians that you have always done. And therefore, I would also wish to add, Mr. President, that the Plateau Caucus heartily and wholeheartedly endorse your nomination.
Yes.
And on their behalf, I also wish to congratulate you and believe that you will be a good ambassador of Plateau State in the federal cabinet. With these few words, having known you and established all your credentials and everything, I wish to yield to the majority leader to go ahead and do the needful that we have done for all female nominees that have come to this chamber. I so move.
Senate Leader.
Mr. President, sitting in the chair, my distinguished colleagues, I'm Yahya Abdullahi, representing Kebbi North. Mr. President, we will have before you and all our distinguished colleagues a very hard-working, talented, distinguished lady of substance. This is a lady who I think is a household name, not just politically, but also socially, and in the humanitarian cycles of this country. This is a lady, who has established her DNA, not in the PDP, but in the hearts and homes of Nigerians. And working on the basis of all the experiences that she has garnered in the struggles to making Nigeria great again, she has decided to leave the PDP to go to the next level. Therefore, Mr. President, I think having talents like those possessed by Mrs. Teller is a plus for this administration. She's going to bring finesse, discipline, and experience into the cabinet. Therefore, Mr. President, I have no hesitation in recommending to my colleagues that this hardworking former minister, former deputy governor, should be allowed by the Senate to take a bow. I so recommend, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senate Leader. In case someone would have missed the essence of asking our female nominees to take a bow and go, a privilege that only members of the National Assembly and associated legislatures enjoy, we do so because we believe that our female nominees and the Nigerian women generally have come of age to participate fully in national development. And those nominees that we have proved themselves very capable, very competent, very reassuring. And we believe that they will do a lot of good things, adding a lot of value to governance, and we therefore have no reservation that they deserve this privilege. The nominee before us, like the Senate Leader said, is a household name, a devoted and committed and patriotic and very loyal person. And unlike the minority leader said, has a DNA in every Nigerians' heart. I believe that all of us here, regardless of our political platforms, feel the same for our nominee. So with these remarks, I'll put the question. Is it the view of this Senate that the nominee before us takes a bow and go? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow.
Another exhibition of gender sensitivity by the Ninth Senate. Pauline Talin, ministerial nominee from Plateau State, has just been screened. Well, the same privilege accorded to all other female nominees has also been accorded to her. And the President of the Senate once again explained why they've taken such stance. And that is principally to encourage female politicians. And that encouragement, President of the Senate says, starts from the day of the screening for political office holders. Well, that was the screening of the Nigeria's former minister, one-time former deputy governor of Plateau State, Pauline Talin. And then we're expecting another nominee to come into the red chamber to face the legislators. Well, the Ninth Senate at the moment is performing one of the major oversight functions of the parliament, screening of ministerial nominees. Well, this is one of the beauties of democracy, where the executive appoints ministers and the parliament will have to screen them and confirm the appointment of the president. Well, this is in line with section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Well, at the moment, 5 nominees have been screened. The Senate started with Abubakar Malami from Kebbi State, and the immediate past Attorney General and Minister of Justice. The next was Hadi Sirika from Katsina State, another immediate past Minister of the Federal Republic, but this time the Minister of State Aviation. Osage Ehanire from Edo State, also a former minister. Festus Kayamu from Delta State, and Pauline Talin, the only female to have been screened here today, who has now joined the other 4 female nominees that have been screened. Now, another nominee is coming in, and this time is Ali Pantami from Gombe State. Dr. Pantami was appointed as the Director General and the Chief Executive Officer of the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, in 2016. Well, prior to his appointment, he was a professor of computer information system and head of technical writing at the International Islamic University, Medina, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Dr. Pantami also lectured at Federal University of Technology, popularly known as Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, for over a decade, where he taught courses such as multimedia, software engineering, hardware technology, and software technology, and so many other areas. He's now at the podium to defend his ministerial nominee before the Senate.
The nominee
very much.
Distinguished colleagues, we have the nominee from Gombe State, Dr. Isa Ali Pantami, currently the DG NIDA, the National Information Technology Development Agency. On behalf of my colleagues, let me welcome you to the Senate chamber, and we have your CV, but you can emphasize on those things in the CV that you think need special note by the Senate, and you can also say any other information that you think will be helpful but have not been included in the CV. You can address the Senate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The President of the Senate, Dr. Ahmad Lawal, the Deputy President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Ovi Omo Agege, all other principal officers here present, distinguished senators from my beloved state, Gombe State, distinguished Senator Muhammad Danjuma Goje, distinguished Senator Saidu Alkali, distinguished Senator Amos Bulus, Chairman of my committee, distinguished Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, other distinguished senators here present, my friends and associates that join me on this, to this distinguished chamber, good evening, and may peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you. Mr. President, sir, I begin by thanking Almighty for blessing me with this golden opportunity to be here in this distinguished chamber today. Then I use the opportunity to thank the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammad Buhari, for finding me worthy of this nomination to be part of his cabinet. I also use the opportunity to thank this distinguished chamber for the opportunity given to me to appear before respected personalities for the screening. I consider this as an honor and I appreciate it. My relationship with this respected chamber has been cordial from the time I joined the National Information Technology Development Agency at official level on one hand and personal on the other. We maintain a very good and cordial relationship that it helped me significantly in promoting and transforming the IT sector in the country. Briefly, about my personality, I was, according to my father, I was born and grew up in Pantami quarters of Gombe local government in the Gombe state. Around 20th of October 1972, I was enrolled into a traditional school that we call Sangaya School, Quran School, where I spent more than 4 years there. Later on, I was admitted into primary school, then secondary school, Government Science Secondary School, Gombe. After secondary school, I was sent again to another town where I spent 3 years acquiring religious knowledge. After that, my father sent me to university, a federal University of Technology, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, where I studied computer science as my first degree. After the first degree, I was retained by the university to teach. From the university there, I got my MSc in computer science. I also got MBA in technology management. Later on, I moved to the United Kingdom. I had the privilege of attending Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen, Scotland, United Kingdom, where I got my PhD in oil and gas computing. During my stay in the Aberdeen, I had the privilege of teaching and supervising students on the graduate level. After that, I was contacted by Saudi government, where I got an opportunity to go there and teach at the prestigious International Islamic University for 2 years. I happen to be, with all sense of humility, I happen to be the first Nigerian ever to teach in that prestigious university. I also spent many years at the Abuja Tafawa Balewa University teaching in the Faculty of Information Technology. I taught there for over a decade. So with this, my background is more into education, then secondly, IT sector, and I partake in a lot of research in oil and gas computing. Furthermore, I had the opportunity of attending Harvard University in the US, where I was trained on digital transformation. I also had another opportunity of attending Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and the IMD, Institute of Management Development in Lausanne, Switzerland, where I was also trained on strategic innovation. Furthermore, I was also at the Cambridge University, where I was trained also on management. So I had the opportunity of attending all these institutions. Part of what I have achieved in academia, particularly at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, I happen to be the pioneer technical staff of Information Technology Development, Information Technology Department, where I champion the development of the entire curriculum of that department. And I had the opportunity of training over 1,000 students in the university in IT-related courses. At least most of them are all over the country, adding value to this great nation. When I traveled to Saudi, I also happened to be among the pioneer staff that established the Faculty of Computer and Information Technology there, and I happened to be the head of a technical writing department as well. On 26 September 2016, the President of Nigeria, President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, appointed me to come and be the Director General and the CEO of the National Information Technology Development Agency. I joined the agency on 26 September 2016, and I'm grateful for this honor by the President. As a bloody teacher, I was brought back to the country, and I had the opportunity of contributing my quota towards the development of our country. So I spent at least, I am approaching the third year now at the National Information Technology Development Agency. Part of my achievements in the agency, firstly, is reactivating our responsibility of being the IT clearinghouse for all federal public institutions when it comes to IT projects. That effort alone saved over 16 billion naira for the federal government of Nigeria. This achievement is an unprecedented one. With all sense of humility, I believe that this is something that if it is maintained, it will go a long way in reducing the percentage of IT project failure in the country. Furthermore, part of what we have achieved at the National Information Technology Development Agency within this time frame, we had the opportunity of trying to make sure that we enforce our local content policy, meaning that we are not in any way allowed to patronize foreign IT equipments until and unless if we are convinced beyond reasonable doubt that we have no capacity to do it in Nigeria. But as long as we have the capacity to produce any, or to manufacture, or to develop any software or hardware, then the importation is not allowed. Through that effort alone, what we have achieved in 2017 is unprecedented. In 2013, before I joined the agency, the patronage of our local computers is around 82,000. In 2014, is 92,000. In 2015, is around 92,000. In 2016, 150. But in 2017, with the little, with our effort, with our modest effort, we were able to catapult that to around 265,000 within a single year. So this achievement is also unprecedented. In addition, I had the privilege of using the agency with the support of my staff to promote ICT by deploying ICT computers and centers to 246 institutions in Nigeria. In addition, we established 11 world-class virtual libraries in federal universities all over the country. We also established 9 wide area networks all over the country. And we partake in training people of various categories in ICT, including people with disabilities. We train a substantial number of people with disability in Nigeria to the extent that some of them, as of today, establish their ICT centers, and they partake in delivering services, and they are being paid by doing that without roaming our streets begging. Furthermore, we introduce a training for women for ICT, where we train women on ICT, we distribute facilities to all of them, and we make sure that at least they are self-reliant. This is something that has been achieved significantly as well. In addition, we also introduce what we call hackathon and future hack, and particularly through our startup program, where we move from one zone to another, from one state to another, identifying our young innovators, those that we see, they have the potentials of making the country proud, to make sure that we mentor them, we guide them, we provide seed funding for them in order to make the country proud. And this we were able to achieve a lot through this process, in addition to our cybersecurity effort. Most importantly, during WannaCry, the National Information Technology Development Agency was the first institution or body in all over the country to notify Nigeria and Nigerians about the potential danger of cybercrime, particularly during the WannaCry attack. And that helped significantly by reducing the gravity of the attack on our nation, to the extent that many developed nations were affected badly. But with the proactive measures we have been taken, that has significantly reduced
the doctor, you can summarize so that we can ask you questions, because there are a lot of people who want to ask you questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think with this, I will be able to pause here and entertain the questions. Thank you very much, sir. Yes.
The Deputy Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. First of all, let me congratulate the nominee on your nomination for the post of a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Secondly, let me congratulate you for the good work you have done in NIDA. Maybe you should know that when the Space Agency was established, NIDA was a center under the Space Agency. It started as Center for Information Technology Development, which was eventually midwifed into NIDA. NIDA was formerly under Ministry of Science and Technology, but then moved on to the Ministry of Communication Technology, where you reside with NICOMSAT. Now, there's a debate going on whether NICOMSAT should be privatized or commercialized. Knowing fully well that NICOMSAT is a national asset that is very important for the security community and the intelligence community. I'm talking about the military, the SSS, and others. Now, in your own opinion, do you think that NICOMSAT should be privatized or commercialized? Because it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Senator Mohamed Adamalaro.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting in the chair, distinguished colleagues. Mr. Nominee,
let me first of all congratulate you for being appointed as a nominee by Mr. President. Secondly, Mr. President, let me say that this is one appointment that will certainly add value to this government. The IT sector in Nigeria needs to be transformed. It is one sector that has the capacity of employing thousands and thousands of people. And I believe we have a technocrat, a well-accomplished scholar who is equal to the task. So the appointment is a well-deserved appointment. The only thing, Mr. President, I have is one question for him. And the question is that there is Abuja Technology Village, where billions of naira have been spent in providing infrastructure. And this technology village is meant to invite foreign firms to come and establish business in Nigeria, IT business in Nigeria, employing Nigerians, developing hardware and software. And getting to about 15 years now, everything has been provided in that village. Unfortunately, we haven't seen companies coming to set up businesses. In the event that you are confirmed as Minister for Information and Communication, how do you intend to utilize such important facility, having spent billions of naira of public money? Secondly, Mr. President, Abuja Technology Village is wholly owned by FCT. Do you intend to take it over as a minister of the Federal Republic? Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as the chair, I'm Dr. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi. I represent the very good people of Niger North Senatorial District. I'm from Niger State. First, let me align myself in congratulating Dr. Pantemi on this very landmark achievement and appointment. Definitely, you've left some mark in two areas: your very deep knowledge of Islamic studies and ICT. Today, we are faced with some very compelling challenges for which our president, sitting as the chair today, has raised enormous concern about the idea or the challenge of out-of-school children. Today, this very challenge, no doubt, is more serious in the northern part of this country.
Yes.
And you come from a very conservative northern community, and so you understand the key issues, the drivers, and the challenges of how this problem has come about, and perhaps why this problem is persisting. Now, you have the opportunity of being a member of the Federal Executive Council of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Within this context, I want to know, what will you be bringing to the table so that the government will be able to bring a very lasting solution to this problem? Secondly, I would like to know, the world is moving towards a digital economy, and you have some very deep knowledge, and experience. I'm particularly thrilled with your knowledge of innovation. Of course, knowledge is the key driver of innovation. What do you think this government needs to do so that beyond talking the talk, we are able to talk and walk? What do you think this government can do separately or differently to bring the advantage of the digital economy so that our numerous youths will use the positive energy positively, rather than the present challenge where many of them are just using, what do they call it, the tablets, the smartphones, just to create what some people may call confusion, when they could have used the same smartphones to create wealth and employment for themselves and for others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadija.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Sitting as the chair, my distinguished colleagues, the nominee, I want to extend my congratulations. And I also want to tell this Senate that I can attest to most of the achievements that have been reeled out by the nominee in his capacity as the Director General of NIDDA. I've been to his office to make certain requests in terms of our own small ICT initiatives. And the last time I was there, he graciously arranged almost a 2-hour-long technical session. And at the end of the day, I think they acceded to almost all 7 of the requests that we went with, including arranging this Women in ICT Initiatives training in Jigawa, where as hosts we were given maybe a reasonable number of slots for some of the girls that were trained there for over 5 weeks. And Mr. President, I can tell you that it was almost a miracle, because we had young girls who had never operated a computer in their lives, undergoing 5 weeks of intensive training. And they were handed over laptops and other accessories, and before we knew it, they went back to their communities and became graphic designers, making greeting cards, wedding invitations, and even banners and posters for politicians when the time came. I also know that under his watch, I think the mandate of NIDDA was made manifest. A lot of us didn't even know what NIDDA stood for in the past. I have a question for the nominee. Without prejudice to the President's prerogative to appoint portfolios, if you found yourself in a situation where you are superintending most of the agencies under communications, what would you do to ensure that ICT, as is being espoused now? We had 2 motions on ICT in this Senate, barely 1 week after another. But my question is, how do you think you can make ICT a vehicle for teaching other subjects, not just simply talking about teaching ICT education? Yesterday or 2 days ago, we had someone here tell us that National Open University, no, it was the nominee from Bauchi, the National Open University had 500,000 students. And that is the kind of force multiplication that comes with ICT. And I want to see a situation where, the technology itself is used to deliver content, especially in the light of the acute teacher shortage that we have in Nigeria, so that we can help states like Borno, who have invested a lot in equipment and technology that is now offline. And maybe while you are at it, you can also see a way to compel our telcos to provide some of that service. They already have the infrastructure, they have 3G and 4G everywhere, and I know in most countries, as part of their CSR, they actually provide free internet connectivity to schools. South Africa as an example. So we can have that connectivity in our primary schools. Maybe we can find a way to level the playing field for teachers. One teacher teaching several classes or even several schools at a time. Anything is better than the kind of situation we have at the moment. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Abuja.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Senator Abuja Jibril of the Kano North. Mr. Domini, I am fascinated by your resume. It shows you have a very, very good pedigree. In any case, you are well known in this country. One does not need to look at your resume before he agrees or she agrees that you have a profound pedigree. You are in the same mode with the Vice President. The Vice President is an accomplished pastor, at the same time a legal luminary. You are also an accomplished Islamic cleric, at the same time an accomplished ICT expert. Now, assuming you are confirmed and you find yourself in the cabinet of Mr. President, which I am really optimistic that you'll be confirmed. And my question goes this way. What would be your take, or what would be your advice in respect to going in line with what is happening in other climes, where ICT parks are created, where inventors, ICT inventors, are put together, create kind of incubation so as to assist them in commercializing what they have invented for the betterment of themselves and the economy at large. We don't have that here in this country. So, are you going to advise the government that we should create an elaborate, a modern ICT park to help our teeming youths who are becoming inventors everything? This is because when you look at what is happening, particularly in the western part of the world and Europe, western part of the world, Europe and America, you find out that they are producing billionaires, because of the help rendered to them by
Mr. President, sitting on the chair, my order is Order 53, if I may read. Order 53.3. 3.4. The Senator must confine his observations to the subject under discussion and may not introduce matters irrelevant thereof. Mr. President, I think we should make people asking questions should go straight to the point and ask their questions. Sorry? Say what is it? Order 53. To confine them straight, to go straight to the question. Thank you.
Let me just advise all of us. Many of us want to ask questions. So please, I think we can do without too much background. And we still have one more nominee to go for today. So let's please do away with background, go straight to the question so that we can take many of our colleagues' questions. So you can ask your question, please, straight.
So, Mr. Nominee, so are you going to advise that we should have, a very modern, big and elaborate ICT park in the country? That's my question.
Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleague, Buhari Abdul Fattah. Congratulations, Mr. Nominee. If you recall, I traveled to a lot of countries with you. In South Korea, one incident happened. How will you handle the incident that happened in South Korea in Nigeria? And the incident was, we don't have oil, we don't have anything. We export ICT. And the guy took us, the chairman of ICT in that country took us to the refinery and said they have the best refinery in the world. With your performance at NISDA, with your startup, and all the people you've been able to train, how will you replicate what is happening in South Africa, in Nigeria, if you find your South Korea, in Nigeria, if you find yourself in any ministry in this country? Thank you.
Senator Adedayo Adeye.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, sitting as the chair of the Senate, I congratulate the nominee. From your resume, you are a very qualified person, very knowledgeable in ICT. You have attended some of the best schools in the world. Oh, you are not hearing me?
Okay, it's okay.
Oh, I was congratulating you that I believe you are a well-educated person. I've attended some of the best schools in the world.
Thank you very much.
Now, you will agree with me that Nigeria is a primary economy.
Yeah.
We have not even reached the level of industrial economy, not to talk of the digital economy.
Yeah.
Now, people are talking of knowledge economy. And we know that in the world today, the most valuable companies are the ICT companies. Apple is the most valuable company in the whole world as we speak, more valuable than even Chevron and all the oil companies. Nigeria is lacking behind in this critical area. How do you think Nigeria, why not sidestepping the industrial revolution or the industrial economy, can make that giant leap to the knowledge economy? That's my number one question. Number two is, you know that unlawful personal data processing is a threat to national security and the data economy. As the DG of NITDA, and if you have a portfolio in communication, which I suspect you may have, how will you ensure compliance with the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation 2019, thereby promoting national security and data privacy? Thank you very much.
You correspond now.
Okay. Thank you very much for asking very important questions, and I will go through the answers.
I'll advise that you just be precise because there are so many questions to be asked.
Okay, the first question has been asked by the Deputy Leader of the Senate. Firstly, I want to use the opportunity to appreciate your encomiums for our modest effort. And this encourages us to redouble our effort whenever we get any opportunity to serve our country, meaning that what we have been doing has been supervised by this respected chamber. I consider these encomiums as a challenge and encouragement as well to do more, and will not take them for granted. Thank you very much. Secondly, on the questions, before the question that NIDA was under Science and Tech, or rather under Presidency as a department, then Science and Tech, then as an agency under Ministry of Communications. When NIDA was established, it was established just as a department, not under presidency, it was just a department under the Ministry of Communications. Later on, that is, it was 2001, because the policy that NIDA was to implement was developed in 2000. Then the agency was established by government policy in 2001. So when it was using a policy, it was just a department under the Ministry of Communications. When NIDA got its act from this respected chamber, then it becomes an independent agency, a statutory agency under the supervision of the Ministry of Communications. And this was in 2007. The issue of NICHCOMSAT, which is very critical as well, that NICHCOMSAT, Nigerian Communication Satellite, is also an agency under the Ministry of Communications. The question is, if I am confirmed by this distinguished chamber, what am I planning to do or to recommend for NICHCOMSAT? Is it commercialization or privatization? We will go for commercialization. Is very important. Firstly, because of the fact that many Nigerians look at NICHCOMSAT only from the perspective of generating revenue, while the role that NICHCOMSAT has been providing in terms of security in this country cannot in any way be quantified. For example, around 2010, 2011, 2013, in Northeast, most importantly, Borno and Yobe, there wasn't any network of NTA or Airtel or any other telecoms. Only NICHCOMSAT was providing all the satellites required by our Air Force. At that time, the whole Northeast, most importantly security agencies, were relying on NICHCOMSAT for all their satellites in order to attack or to prevent themselves from attack or to strategize. The role NICHCOMSAT has played here, it cannot be quantified using money. So firstly, when we talk about NICHCOMSAT, let us look at the role the agency has been playing in terms of supporting our security institutions to deliver their mandate. The reason why I'm against privatization, privatizing NICHCOMSAT will endanger the security of our country. Being the only satellite that is providing the images required by our security institution. When we privatize, then by implication, we are subjecting our national security in the hands of those that at least that partake in the privatization process. So because of this, looking at the role NICHCOMSAT has been playing in terms of security, it is better to commercialize its activities. That commercialization can support the agency to get something from the services they provide in order to integrate their process. Then secondly, a question has been asked by distinguished Senator Adamu Alero after congratulating me for this nomination. And he asked a very important question as well. What we plan to do with Abuja Technology Village. As he outrightly observed, Abuja Technology Village is not for federal government, it's for FCT, meaning that it's for the Federal Capital Territory. And with this, there is a limit to what we can do. And secondly, what is most important to do in Abuja Technology Village is to make sure that we try to invite investors to come and invest by building their offices or their IT hubs there. And the best way to do that, there are many models in place. For example, we can use Rwanda model. Rwanda, within a period of only 5 years, they were able to become the multinational companies hub in Africa, meaning that there is no nation today in Africa that has the availability and the presence of IT companies like Rwanda. Why? It's because of their policies and laws. Firstly, we need to do a lot in the area of ease of doing business. A lot has been achieved because within a period of 2 years, we were able to catapult our nation to 27 steps higher than where we were. This is a great achievement. However, we need to do a lot. Secondly, many investors are not willing to come to Nigeria to invest. Why? Because of our image. The image is worse than the reality. Many people outside Nigeria feel like if you are in Abuja, you are not safe. You are under threat 24/7. While we live peacefully, there could be challenges, but these challenges are inevitable all over the world. There is no country
that is existing without security challenges. But what we have been reading from outside the country, or the way the image of our country is being portrayed, particularly in media, is not encouraging. It will not in any way do good for us. So I think we need to come together. This is something that all stakeholders must join hands together to see that we clear the image of our country. Thirdly, whenever you want to invite investors to come and invest, there must be an agreement, like tax holiday, maybe for the first year or for the second year. And thirdly, at the initial stage, we should not just be after the profit or the revenue we will get. Let us make sure that they agree to be part and parcel of our country. When that is achieved, then in the next few years, we can come up with some, at least recommendations or agreement on how to start benefiting from their investment. Today, if investors can come to Nigeria and invest and employ Nigerians to work for them, this is another achievement indeed. So I think we need to do a lot in the area of promoting our image, in the area of coming up with so many policies and laws that are investment friendly. They can encourage investors to come to Nigeria and invest. There is no time to discuss on this on a larger scale, but I have a blueprint in place where we can use it to make sure that we invite investors, and with that they will be willing to come to Nigeria and invest. Then the third one is from Senator Abdullahi, Niger State. I also appreciate the encomiums from distinguished senator, and this is a motivation for me to do a lot in the future when given the opportunity. Firstly, the question distinguished senator asks is about out-of-school children. Firstly, I have been a university teacher for around 14 to 15 years. Secondly, I am also a student throughout my life. Thirdly, I have been teaching kids in our environment since 1988. Fourthly, I am a great beneficiary of acquiring knowledge. With this, I believe that if I am part and parcel of the Federal Executive Council, I will be able to deploy my experience and background to see that we eliminate or rather reduce the number of children out of school significantly. The percentage is so alarming today. And in this area, I think the main responsibility is not only with the federal government. Our states have a role to play because they usually control our primary schools, our secondary schools, and they have many higher institutions. Most of our schools, or rather our states, if you look at the budget for education, is highly insignificant. It's not sufficient. Developed nations today are budgeting 20%, 25%, some even 30% for education. But today in Nigeria, we have states that are budgeting less than 10% of their annual budget. With this,
Mr. President, the candidate has only 2 minutes more.
Continue.
Okay, so firstly, budgetary provision is very important. Secondly, we need to have laws in place that will make taking our children to school mandatory. It's not allowed for anyone to keep his son at home. Thirdly, we should try to advocate for free education. This free education is very important, particularly at primary and secondary level. Fourthly, children that are orphans, let us have a package for them. Besides free education, the system will take care of them, or rather will reduce the pain of losing their parents significantly. If that is provided, I believe it will go a long way. Number three, my respected brother, the question asked by distinguished Senator Ibrahim Hassan of Jigawa, I think about the issue of not only providing ICT for our schools. How can we use ICT to be the method of our teaching? I already have a blueprint in place for that, what we call digital literacy. The whole country must embark on a journey of digital literacy. Today in Nigeria, you can see, with due apology to civil servants, we have many civil servants that do not know how to operate computers. So you cannot come up with a policy of digitalizing everything or making computers to be the way of teaching while there are teachers that are yet to learn how to operate computers. So firstly, our digital literacy should be those that are teaching. We should teach them for a period of time. After that period of time, we make sure that using ICT facilities, most importantly in our towns, before extending to villages, is mandatory, so that exam will be online, teaching will be online. When we make that mandatory, we can continue to expand to other local governments and our villages within the period of even 10 years or thereabout. In place, we can use what we call LKJ model. LKJ model is a combination of 3 cities where you can customize the 3 models in one place and deploy it. Then number 5, question asked by distinguished Senator Barau Jibrin. I'm in support of creating many IT hubs. Currently, we have established around 7 IT hubs in Nigeria. This is very important. Then number 6, question asked by Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, Oyo State. The best way we can do that,
Time up.
to copy South Korea, firstly, we need to learn what we call mentor and mentor.
Mr. President, his time is up with 11 minutes.
Distinguished
thank you very much.
Distinguished senators, I'm still giving Senators George Thompson Sekibo, Albert Basi, Ifeanyi Uba, Dino Malai, 1 question each. You was done? Senator Danjuma Goji.
Thank you very much.
Yes, that is the hallmark of it. Thank you, Mr. President, in the chair. I stand here today proudly as a very proud person. I'm very proud because before the interview of this candidate, whose only one side you have had, because he has 2 sides. And I think it's very important to emphasize the other side. He's a computer scientist, you have had that. But he's also a man of very, very high integrity and a very, very good, excellent, well-known Islamic scholar and preacher. So he has 2 sides. So when you bring these 2 sides together, Mr. President, your earlier statement about the 2 caucuses, the other caucuses, Oyo and which one? Delta. I think I'm not entering the chambers. I think we'll comfortably lead the other 2. Yeah. I have little to say because by his presentation and performance, the chamber is okay. And no, Mr. President, I have not finished. This is the first nominee so far, and I think we have cleared up to how many? More than 20. That people raise their hands, they are recognized up to 5 of them, and they will do their questions because those questions might have been answered through the submission of the nominee. Very excellent, very, very excellent. I'm very proud. So, on behalf of the caucus of Gombe State, 3 of us, and on behalf of Gombe people, we are unanimously grateful to Mr. President for recognizing this very, very special talent and bring him to limelight. We totally endorse his nomination and we pray to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to continue to guide him and raise him higher and higher and higher and higher. Thank you very much. I so submit. On this call, I will urge my colleagues and Mr. President to ask the nominee to take a bow and go. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, before I put the question, Gombe State is also in contention. I think the other side that nobody asked any question, I will not ask a question but just comment for 1 minute. The nominee indicated he also has an oil and gas background I think that will be a very valuable disposition and experience for us when we'll start working on the PIB. We'll all recall that I said this time around, since we have tried individually in different arms of the government and all failed. The executive tried it alone, they didn't get it. The legislature tried it alone in the 8th Senate, in the National Assembly, 8th National Assembly, we didn't get it. Then we need to come together. We may get it. And experiences and training like his will come handy, I am sure. With these remarks, let me put the question that is it the view of the Senate that the nominee, having answered all the questions satisfactorily, takes a bow and go? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow.
That was the 7th ministerial nominee to be screened by the Senate today. Ali Pantami from Gombe State, the Director General of National Information Technology Development Agency. Well, he answered quite a number of questions. Senators were particularly interested in trying to find out how Nigerian students will improve in their information communication technology. Well, he explained to them that while as a DG of NITDA, he has deployed more than 245 ITC systems across institutions in Nigeria, and that they have set up 11 world-class visual libraries across the country. Now he's also explained to them that they have trained so many visually impaired persons as a way of encouraging this strata of the Nigerian society. He also explained that through NITDA, that he introduced a program that fished out young inventors in Nigeria, give them financial support to encourage them and motivate them as well. Well, he said that NITDA, under his watch, was the first agency to draw the attention of Nigerians to the potential danger of cybercrime. Well, he also called for improved budgetary provision to education, as he also called for free primary and secondary education as a way of reducing the number of out-of-school children in the country. Well, the screening today has been quite eventful. 6 nominees have so far been screened, well, making a total of 30 nominees at the moment. And then we expect that another nominee will be coming in, and like the President of the Senate did say, that might be the last nominee for the day. But at the moment, the nominee we expect to come in is yet to come in. We expect that the nominee from Sokoto State, Muhammadu Maigari Diangyadi from Sokoto State, is the next nominee, and there he's coming in for his own screening. Muhammad Diangadi from Sokoto. Muhammad Diangadi, the nominee from Sokoto State, was born on the 17th of February 1953. He attended the Adro Baraya Primary School, where he obtained his primary school leaving certificate between 1961 and 1967. He also attended the Nagarta College, Sokoto, where he obtained his West African school certificate between 1968 and 1972. He also attended Ahmadu Bello University Zaria between 1975 and 1978, where he obtained his Bachelor of Science in Political Science. Well, the nominee has had quite a number of experiences. He was once appointed as admin officer on grade level 8 in the office of the head of civil service in May 1979. He's now ready to receive questions from the senators.
Distinguished colleagues, the nominee before us is a nominee from Sokoto State, Alhaji Muhammadu Megali Dingyadi, the Katuk and Sokoto, a traditional title holder in the Caliphate. Alhaji Dingyadi, you are welcome to the Senate chamber, and we have your CV. You can, however, highlight on those areas of your CV that you feel will be of additional support for this screening exercise. You may as well mention things that you felt have not been included but are important for the purpose of this screening. Once again, on behalf of my colleagues here, you are welcome and you can address the Senate.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Your Excellency, the Senate President, Your Excellency, the Deputy Senate President, leaders of the Senate, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. President, permit me to recognize senators from my state, that is Sokoto State, and I want to begin with the leader of our great party in Sokoto State, Senator Aliyu Magatakardawamoko, followed by my friend, Senator Ibrahim Gobir from Sokoto East, and my commissioner and my senator from my zone, Senator Abubakar Shehu Tambuwal. Permit me, sir, to also recognize the senators from my sister states of Kebbi and Zamfara. I want to particularly recognize the leader of the Senate, who has been my schoolmate both at secondary school and at the university, Abuja Zaria. My chairman at the 2014 Constitutional Conference, National Conference, Senator Adamu Aleru, he has been my chairman on the Committee of Finance and Revenue. Of course, Senator Naalla has been a friend, and we have been working together for some time now. Let me not forget to recognize my friend and my brother, Senator Danju Magoje, who has been together with me at the university, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, as a classmate. We also were posted to Gongola State for our national service together with him. We served in the same office that was then called FEDECO, and we stayed in the same house with him. I used to call him my junior brother, but for the sake of today, Mr. President, I want to concede and call him my senior brother, Mr. President. Your Excellency, I'm aware that you have my CV, and you have given me the opportunity to add or subtract or highlight on issues that I think I should say on these CVs. My position was to adopt my CV, but I want you to allow me to assure this hallowed chamber that from what you have seen on my CV, for somebody who has served as a permanent secretary in almost about 10 ministries, and key ministries for that matter, after which I served as the secretary to the Sokoto State government for about 8 years. In addition to this, I have also served as a member of the Constituent Assembly in 1988, as well as a member of the 2014 National Conference. I think with this sojourn, I want to consider myself as somebody who is qualified to be an ambassador, not only for the executive arm of this government, but also for the legislature. The experiences that I have gained and the conferences that I attend has given me a lot of knowledge, and it has prepared me to promote a good and harmonious working relationship between the executive and the legislature. I have served as the SSG in Sokoto State, and I know what it takes to have a sour relationship between the executive and the legislature. So, Mr. President, I want to assure you that I'm not only going to be an ambassador for the executive, I also will, wherever I find myself, be a good ambassador to this hallowed chamber and indeed to the National Assembly. Your Excellency, I think I should stop here and adopt my CV and allow distinguished senators to ask their questions. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Distinguished Senator Betty Apiafi.
Mr. President, sitting on the chair, Katumba and Sokoto, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, the nominee has a wealth of experience that we can draw on. Looking at the way Nigeria is today, and considering that you're a member of the 1988 Constituent Assembly and the 2014 National Conference, looking at the situation of our country today, what lessons can we draw from those two conferences as an elder statesman and somebody who participated in these two conferences? What lessons can we draw to make Nigeria a better place? Thank you.
Senator Lawrence Orujakpo.
Thank you, Mr. President of the Senate, sitting as chair. My name is Lawrence Orujakpo. I represent the productive people of Bayelsa West Central District. Mr. Nominee, I want to congratulate you and also to commend you for the wealth of experience. Your CV is quite rich. But two questions quickly. First, considering the fact that for a fish to decay, it starts from the head. And the bedrock of our educational system is like a pyramid, where you have the primary schools, so many primary schools, quite a large number of secondary schools, and you have few universities as a pyramid. And consider the fact that less energy in terms of resources is deployed to the primary educational system, which is the foundation. What do you think you would suggest in terms of looking at what resources we put into TED Fund and what we put into UBEC? What do you think we can do so that we can get the primary school very well? Because if you don't get the basics very well, you can't get the head very well. What do you think we can do to retweak our funding of the primary education system to make it very effective? Because currently, we have it as a responsibility for the local governments, and we know what the local governments are. That is question one. Two, this is general question. Do you think we are getting enough derivatives from our tax in terms of especially the telecom industry? Because you have wide experience. Considering that you are taking to the Ministry of Communication, do you think we are getting commensurate tax from the telecommunication industry, considering what we are putting in terms of resources? Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, Senator Ibrahim Yahya Oloragbe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as the chair, my name is Dr. Ibrahim Yahya Oloragbe. I join my colleagues that have spoken earlier to congratulate the Katunka Sokoto. I'm very impressed with your wealth of experience and service. And I could see that you've had a long sojourn in civil service. My question is simple, and it's only one. What would you advise as policy, as a member of the Executive Council of the of the Cabinet, on reform that could be done to federal civil service in the areas of the directorate, as it was changed before to say 8 years, and now it is about to be reversed? Which one is better? And what do you advise that will strengthen the civil service? Thank you.
You can answer the questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. The first question from Madam Distinguished Senator, she wants to know the lessons that we stand to learn from the conferences we had in 1988 and 2014. I want to believe that these conferences are intended to allow people to decide how they want to manage this great country. And most importantly, from the experiences that we have seen, Nigerians have come to agree to live as one indivisible country, in spite of all the differences that you find that are coming up at such fora. It is important that these kind of conferences are from time to time conducted to give people the opportunity to say their minds and how they want this country to be run, how they want it to be governed. A nominee just who came about some few hours ago here was talking about amendments of the Constitution in this place and in that place. These are all part of the agitations that Nigerians are always having, even though I wanted to disagree with the fact that we are not here for these issues relating to constitutional review, constitutional amendment. This chamber has adequate information, adequate data on issues that relate to constitutional amendment. What we are here for is ministerial screening. And the Senate has all the time to arrange for this kind of forum where they will listen to people, where they will give Nigerians the opportunity, which I believe they have at the last assembly. They have given that opportunity. And I think from what we are seeing these days, it will not be out of place if we allow people to say their mind as to how best they think we can move this country forward. The second question raised by distinguished senator relates to primary education. Even though I didn't get him well, but I think primary education is the backbone of all other levels of education. If we are able to ensure that primary education is sound and effective, all the other tiers of education will follow suit. With the little experience that I got when I came to National Commission for Colleges of Education, I have discovered the need to strengthen the basic education, because without strengthening that level of education, all other tiers of government education are going to suffer, and negatively too. So I want to believe that we need to put our heads together, even though education is on the concurrent list, but there is need for harmony, for understanding, so that education in this country can be taken to greater heights. He also talked about tax, particularly relating to tax coming from communication industries, and he wanted to know whether I will agree to the fact that what we are getting from them is adequate. I want to believe that we need to do more in order to generate revenue for this country. And the major source of revenue in this country is these communication and telecom industries. We can get a lot of revenue from them, and I believe we can do more to generate revenue from these companies for the development of our nation. The last question was raised on the issue of civil service reform. Civil service reform, we have been undergoing reforms of the civil service structure, but my personal opinion is that what we have today in the Federal Civil Service is adequate. What we need to do is to enhance training and retraining of our civil servants and get them to be committed, carry them along, so that together we'll move this country forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Ifanyuba, and then Senator Elisha Clifford Ishaku Abo.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Ifanyuba, Anambra South. Mr. Nomini, first I want to congratulate you for being nominated by Mr. President. And looking at your CV, you have a very good background, and as well, the Chairman Governing Board of National Commission for College of Education, Abuja, between 2018 till date. I would like you to tell us your view, because I know this Hello Chamber passed a bill to upgrade 4 College of Educations: Alvan Ikoku College of Education, College of Education Kanu, College of Education Zaria, and I think Adeyemi College of Education Akure, to upgrade them to university where a lot of teachers can be trained. And that bill has not been assented to. If you get in as a Minister of Education, I would like you to tell us what you will do in view of this, and also, if possible, tell us what is behind the bill not being passed as the chairman of the Board of National Commission, number one. Number two, all over the world, professors from different universities and PhD stakeholders do brainstorm, gathers all over the world, visiting one country to the other in order to exchange ideas. And such thing is not in Nigeria educational system. I don't know if you can tell us anything why Nigeria is not part of the research team of professors all over the world, storming, going to different countries so that we can help, they can help in shaping the face of technology in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is